Your intuition is like your own internal alarm system that warns you and protects you when you need to be protected. But it's so subtle and quiet that sometimes we don't always hear the messages that it's giving us. So we're going to talk about how to get better at listening to your intuition in this video. I'm Krishanti, and welcome back to my channel where the topics are always about intuition and spiritual and personal growth. And the thing is, look, we've all got it. We are all intuitive. To take it a step further, I could even say we're all psychic. People really put a lot of weight on that term psychic, but it's just using your intuitive abilities, applying them in a way that's a little more like, bam, like out there. We can all do that too. It just takes a certain process and a way to get in there and activate those psychic abilities and activate your intuition. But when it comes to just that subtle, quiet voice of your intuition in everyday life, a lot of us get confused because it is so quiet. And we have this voice of our intuition, and then we have the voice of our ego. And it's like, well, who's talking to me here? And our ego can very much like just say things we want to hear or make us feel like, things are the way they are at the surface level. And it's the intuition that gets below the surface and really brings up what's kind of underneath. So I've been doing this work, intuitive work, for years and years now, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people on the phone who have said, in retrospect, their intuition was telling them something, but they didn't pay attention because it didn't necessarily make sense. It maybe didn't feel like the right thing to do, the practical thing. And that's something we have to think about with intuition and to honor it and honor that energy. Intuition doesn't fit into the 3D world, so it's not always going to be practical, but it's always going to keep you safe, and it's always going to steer you towards what is in your best interest. And unfortunately, sometimes what's in your best interest is completely not practical. Like just yesterday, I was talking to someone. It is in her best interest to stay at this job. But her intuition is like, honey, you're getting sick. You have a knot in the pit of your stomach. Every time you think about going there, you don't have time to work on your real dream. So she called me to ask. Her intuition tells her, by all means, quit this. You'll make money another way. The practical self is saying, hey, this is good money. You need to stay here. So see how that works? That's just a perfect example of it. Others, like I hear constantly, are like, well, he presented so charming. He seemed so great on the surface. My intuition warned me a little bit about it, but the package was just all there. So I went forward, and now I found out my intuition was right. So let's talk about how intuition works for most people. What's so super cool, you've heard about the clairs, right? Clairaudience, clairsentience, that's when you get into the whole psychic stuff. That's clear seeing and clear hearing. It's like we have our 5 senses, and then we have our 5 senses like in the intuitive way. It's like hearing with our psychic ears and seeing with our psychic eyes and all of that. But the one thing everybody has across the board, and I've trained people, I've worked with people, everybody has a feeling. Everybody knows that feeling of like something is not quite right here. So start to listen to that feeling and let it guide you. And you can do this in a bunch of different ways, but I find that it's more fun when you make it fun. Like when you make it like, where would I like to go? What would be the best place to go eat dinner tonight? Or where should I get coffee this morning? Or little things like that, or would this be a good idea? Then it's like, then you can get into like, how do I feel about this person in this meeting? Like, what are they intending here? And just listen to your gut, and it will inform you. That's just number one. And the other thing that so many people ignore, and I've learned to really not, but when you feel like something is off for the slightest reason. And this is why we discount our intuition, because it's often like the slightest thing, and it's the smallest, the easiest thing to just brush aside. But at the smallest little off feeling can turn into the biggest, most monstrous disaster of a problem ever. It's crazy. I'm just thinking about that, like when people talk about how they get married and like there was one thing that annoyed them about the person, and it turns out that actually ends up being like the worst thing that you can't ever ignore, or becomes the reason why you don't stay with that person. But it's just the slightest little thing. And now that's how you feel. And just start noticing how you feel as you move from one situation to another. Like when you wake up in the morning, that's usually your baseline energy. Then something happens. How does it make you feel? Then you go in, you get in your car, you're driving. How are you feeling? How do you feel when you get into work? What are you feeling about this project? What are you sensing about this person? There's a lot. But if you just start to pay attention and notice how you're feeling, that's sort of like how you're going to drive the car, or drive the intuition and let it lead you. Like it's kind of like a self-driving car that you can sort of drive while you're doing it. But the feeling thing we've all got, and just start to notice good vibes, bad vibes, vibes in general. Now the other thing is just the paying attention and the visual cues that you see with your physical eyes. This isn't like a clairvoyant exercise. It's what you notice around you. And I'm going to give you a personal story that I've talked about before, but a couple of times in my life, with my intuition has warned me about people. Oh gosh, more than a couple of times. I can think of 3 times right now where my intuition told me exactly what was going on by looking at someone's eyes. And this is more like reading people. And I want to pause here. I have a whole beautiful course called How to Read People at Krishantiw.com, a video course. Check it out. But also come over and sign up to my newsletter, because I'll start doing more live courses on Zoom. And one of them would be involving reading people, because it's one of the best ways to use your intuition to protect you and help you know if somebody has your best interests at heart, or if they're out to, do you harm in any way, or you know what I mean? So it's useful indeed. Check that out, Krishantiw.com. But one job in particular, I went in for the interview. I was to work for a man, and I loved him. Then he said, oh, let me let this woman talk to you too. And she wasn't going to be my boss. And I remember to this day, there's something weird in her eye that I didn't like. And she ended up becoming the boss, and it was horrific. It was a living nightmare. And I saw that in her. Now, how did that protect me? At that point, I took the job and was working for the guy, so I was safe. But when she took over, that's when it was like, okay, time to start getting ready to pack your bags. But that was a warning. I could have maybe just not taken the job at all, knowing that. And I would say that if you're in an interview like that and you get a vibe about somebody you'd have to actually work for, pay attention, because anything off in the eyes, you don't want anything to do with it. And that's, I think, part of the problem with intuition is we want to know, our logical mind wants to know exactly why and how I can't do this, or why is this bad? Why is this not a good idea? Where intuition is it just gives you the no, it doesn't explain it in logical terms. It's up to us to figure that part out. And if you come to a workshop, we can get into the real psychic details where you sit and you're quiet and you apply it in a way that it starts to really unfold and you can see the whole picture like a story. But intuition alone will just be like something rotten or weird in the eyes. Nope. I know I talked about this before, so sorry if you saw this in another video, but somebody came once for a reading 10 years ago or more, and I opened that door and I saw her eyes and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. And I don't usually do that, but there was something that Intuition will sometimes bypass your logical mind and just, if it's a dire protection, you'll just bam, you'll just move, you'll just say no, you'll just slam the door. I didn't slam it, but I was like, I can't, something was very wrong and I don't need to know. But that's another way, in the eyes. And then the third way is your intuition. It's true about the eyes. You can tell if someone's lying by looking in their eyes. And I know all about that. And when that person started to become more truthful, their eyes became more clear, and I could see the truth in their eyes. This is a subtle, strange thing, and intuition is subtle and strange. We don't have a backup explanation for why I can see that you're lying in your eyes, but I do. I see it and I feel it, you know? So start to look in people's eyes and start to acknowledge what you're sensing and feeling, and then your intuition will just start to, like, you want to give it permission to speak up more, and you want to be able to trust it without needing an explanation as to why at the very beginning. That can be really scary. It's a great big whole unknown, but it's so valuable once you really start to like play with it. And you know, you can do trial and error. You can say, my intuition, I got this kind of feeling, but I'm going to go through and see how it unfolds. That's one of the best ways to learn. It's like practice and try it out. Don't listen to your intuition and see what happens. Listen to your intuition and see where it leads you. So I'd love to hear your comments about your intuition. Have you noticed things in people's eyes? Do you get a feeling? Do you just have a knowing? So many people have the feeling and the knowing. Like, you just know. So please share. I'd love to hear your stories, and other people do too. We all love to know how we're all functioning out here with these wonderful superpowers that we have. So that's it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to come to Krishantiw.com and sign up if you'd like to come to a Zoom workshop. And that's it for now. I'll see you later. Bye.